Hey groupers, Pastor Marshall here, ready to dig into the next story in Acts. Boy, we are almost done. It's amazing. And we started this journey a long time ago. Well, first question, just to get you talking, this is not an easy one, but what's the biggest promise that you think that you have ever broken? Are you willing to share? I don't know if promise is the right word, but I was a freshman in college, and my best friend went to college with me. And when we got to college, I sort of spread my wings and he didn't. And he sort of lived under my wings for the entire first semester. Couldn't go anywhere where he wasn't tailing along with me. And so without telling him, second semester I just started doing my own thing. And I'm not real proud of that. We were brothers, and I feel like I broke a promise there. I had to apologize to him years later. Talk about that. Have you ever broken a promise? And then, second icebreaker, have you ever been on trial? Here, Paul is going to be on trial. Remember, we're going to have 5 trials now in the book of Acts. Have you ever been on trial? I was also in college. Claudia and I, married, had gone out in the country to a park, and this was daytime, and we were just doing our homework in this park. And I was given a ticket for where I had parked my car. And this particular county park that I was in, I had to appear in court. Couldn't just pay my ticket. I had to appear in court. So that was my time before a judge. What about you? Have you ever had to stand before a judge? What was that like? Try to step into Paul's skin for a second as we begin these 5 trials in the book of Acts. Well, what is our duty to God? First thing that Paul says before the Sanhedrin is he says that he has fulfilled his duty to God. Do you know what your duty to God is? What is our duty? Would you say, what is our general duty to God as Christ followers? Have you fulfilled it? Are you fulfilling it right now? Pretty confident what Paul says, that he has done his duty. Second, let's take a vote. It's time to take a vote on a great debate in this passage. Was Paul ignorant of who the high priest was? Was he being disrespectful to the high priest? Or was he putting himself on equal footing with the high priest? We're trying to answer the question of why did the high priest slap or have Paul slapped? It's possible that Paul didn't know who Ananias was, that he was the high priest, and so he misspoke. He spoke in ignorance. It's possible that he knew exactly who the high priest was, and he was being disrespectful. He was basically saying, well, you're not really a high priest. You don't have the character. You don't have the godliness. You're an appointed by Rome. You're not really my high priest. Or do you think that he was saying that he was equal to? That in Peter it says that we're all priests in Christ. Do you think that Paul was saying that he was equal to them? He calls them brothers, and that's what offended the high priest. I shared with you on Sunday what I think. If you want some big names on your side, Augustine and John Calvin both think that Paul was being ironical, meaning that he recognized who Ananias was, but he did not recognize him as being priestly, so that he was being ironical, they said. So that's where they land. What about you? Where do you land? Next, in Paul's apology, he quotes from Exodus 22, verse 28. So take a second, turn back to Exodus 2:28, look at it, and what do you think that our world today, our Western world, America, what do you think it would look like if we followed this law? What would your life look like? Does your speech follow this law, or would your speech about our leaders need to change if you were going to follow this law, especially our president? Well, you get to vote again, because there are actually 2 debates in this passage. Next is Paul's line of defense. That's the best way that I could say it. Do you think that Paul takes sides with the Pharisees as a line of defense? That he knows that it will divide the court, and when the court is divided, it'll derail his trial. And so do you think that Paul's line of defense was to derail his trial? Or do you think that Paul just wanted to preach Jesus in front of this Jewish high court? And so what he was doing was talking about Jesus' resurrection with pure motives. Or do you think that he was talking about Jesus' resurrection to derail the court? Well, finally, if Paul was derailing them, it worked. At least it seems to always work. You can always count on religious people to argue over their different beliefs, even if they are on the same side. Here, these were Jews, so they're on the same side, but they've already divided on their side and are arguing over their internal beliefs. And that's exactly what happens in the church. We're on the same side, but we on our own side divide on our side and argue over our beliefs. So, my question for you is there someone in your life who is on the same side of the cross as you, but that you're constantly arguing your Christian religious beliefs with them? And what is the subject that you're always debating with them? Would you share with your group? Every week, talk about what we like, talk about what we don't like. I like Paul's rebuke of Ananias. I just like it. I like tough Paul. Can't stand Ananias. He's a bad guy. He had it coming. So it's like I almost want to sing a song out of Chicago. And then what do I dislike? Well, I dislike the behavior of religious people. I dislike that even though we're on the same side of the cross, that even on our side we just have all of our little camps. And I don't like that. I don't like seeing this religious behavior in this story. Every week, remind you of your application. And our application this week is to ratchet up our confidence in God's presence in our lives. Jesus shows up here in the low point in Paul's life to remind him that he's with him. And God is with us, always with us. And so I want you to ratchet up your confidence that God is with us. Well, I hope that you have a great group digging even deeper into this passage. And I look forward to seeing you next weekend as we get one step closer to the finish line. God bless.